Here's how my friend begins every meal. I would do the blessing over bread. Reverend Bill says the same thing every time, and it's beautiful. He breaks the bread and he says, the word for bread is pan, hidden within the word companionship, pan.
Here's the rabbinic blessing, here is the bread of life, a blessing, and with a slice of one of our favorite rye breads there at the diner, we do that.
There are many windows by which one can come to view God. And I've never spent any time telling somebody that they could not see God through the window which they were looking. I simply celebrate and affirm the fact that the window through which I've seen God is an adequate window. If you want to look through that window with me, you're fine, but if you're finding your sense of purpose and faith through the window which you look, I celebrate that and affirm it.
We didn't think that Trump would win. When he won, it was, it was very scary. I felt safe knowing that I had friends in other faiths that would support me.
The Sisterhood has given me so much purpose and hope and a feeling that we can rise beyond this. And there are more and more people who feel the way we do, and we're finding them, and they're joining the Sisterhood.
I'm Akifa Samdani. I'm a co-leader of Westchester chapter of Sisterhood of Salaam, Shalom.
I'm Annette, and I'm a co-leader with Akifa. You know, for me, when I joined the Sisterhood, you grew up in Borough Park.
That's
so you were a Jew from the start.
That's right.
I did not, and I didn't have any Muslim friends. So when I read about Sisterhood of Salaam Shalom in the Jewish Week article, I thought, what is wrong with this picture? How do I not have any friends that are Muslim? And it just felt crazy all of a sudden, and it had never really occurred to me before that I could do something about it.
I'm Dr. W. Franklyn Richardson, and I'm the senior pastor of Grace Baptist Church in Mount Vernon, New York, where I've been for the last 43 years. I've had the privilege of serving this congregation. I was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. My parents were Baptists, and we grew up in the church. We were active in the church, and they nurtured faith in us. When I was 17, my pastor recommended me to Virginia Union, and they found out I had a reading impairment, and they took me under matriculation as a remediation for a year. And they corrected the reading problem. And the short story is that 35 years later, a person who had to get conditional admission ended up being the chairman of the board, and all the degrees have been signed by me for the last 10 years as chairman of the trustee board. And went on to Yale Divinity School, did a master divinity degree, and then did a doctor ministry at United Theological Seminary in Dayton, Ohio.
Rabbi Jeffrey Sirkman. I grew up in Haverhill, Massachusetts, connected through congregational life. Went to art school for a little stint after a year in Israel through my Zionist youth movement. Went to Boston University, got a master's degree in theology there. The big question, do you get a PhD in or go to rabbinic school? Rabbinic school won out, and went to Hebrew Union College, the Reform Movement's seminary in New York. As a child, a 28-year-old guy, I came here, Susan and I came here to Larchmont. I've been here ever since, at Larchmont Temple, serving with pride this 840 household Reform congregation.
I'm Reverend Bill Crawford. I'm the senior pastor at the Larchmont Avenue Church here in Larchmont, a Presbyterian pastor. I've been at the LAC, as it's lovingly called, for the past 19 years. Prior to that, served the congregation in Long Island. Previously, I was Protestant chaplain at George Washington University, and then prior to that at the Riverside Church in New York City, to which I came immediately after seminary at Union Theological Seminary on the Upper West Side. Prior to that, I have an MSW. I worked in city government, coordinating Department of Justice programming at City Hall in Philly for a few years before discerning, is it law school or seminary? I was quite active as an elder in a Presbyterian church downtown in Philly, and the journey at that point took me to seminary and on the way into ministry. I was baptized in the St. George's Greek Orthodox Church.
Right, that's right.
In downtown Philly. and the firstborn of Helen Carianos Crawford and John Crawford, and I was raised in a Presbyterian church, but the initial step in terms of religious experience was to be
you have a little
immersed.
Zorba in you. I'm going to be honest.
Something like that.
Always,
There's a
in our
little bit
years,
of it. Yeah,
you do. No,
yeah,
come
there's
on.
a little.
Sisterhood of Salam Shalom is a movement that brings together Jewish and Muslim women in small groups to develop friendship and to fight against hatred together. And it's really not just about protecting Muslims and Jews, it's about protecting everyone from bigotry and hatred.
It also promotes understanding between the two faiths by sharing holidays, by sharing similar experiences. We also understand that we have a lot of commonality between the two religions.
What's different with Sisterhood of Salam Shalom is that we're sharing our faith traditions through our friendships, so that, for example, when my father died and I had a Shiva, Akifa came with her husband to visit me during the Shiva, and that's a Jewish tradition, but it was so meaningful for me to share that with you, and I'll never forget that.
So Annette actually helped me with my fasting. We fast for 30 days, and actually we brought the sisters over to the mosque, and we broke fast together, and it was just such a meaningful experience. It made me feel better too, because the Jewish women, they fast for 24 hours. At least ours is only from sunrise to sunset.
But we're so impressed because you do it for 30 days in a row.
We gotta break that.
The organization started with the founder, Cheryl Olitsky, who was on a trip to Poland, a Holocaust trip, and she was so disturbed by the history with the Holocaust, but also by the current kind of anti-Semitic and also Islamophobic slurs and comments she was hearing while she was traveling in Poland, and she decided that when she came home she was going to do something to put an end to that. No one had any idea that it would take hold the way it has. And the thought is that when you bring women together, they can't help but become close and caring and loving, and the differences are fascinating and interesting, but they melt away in the context of the broader issues of life and humanity, and it's really a very beautiful model of interfaith connection. I had read an article in the Jewish Week about this organization, and it said there were 5 chapters around the country of Muslims and Jews that come together in friendship to...
Just 5 chapters?
There were only 5.
How
That was
many-
in
how many do we have
2015. 150.
It's all Annette.
I don't know, not at all. Westchester women are incredible. They're doing lots of different kinds of things. There's some that are more engaging around voter issues and registration. There's chapters that are getting involved in larger holiday gatherings to bring people together. We're going to have documentary film screenings for the community to be exposed to issues
And also,
around the race.
did a chapter do an art show?
Yes, there was an
I
incredible...
think you went to it, right? Yes.
It was so beautiful, a Muslim-Jewish art show.
Did you get that painting?
And I did. Hanging over my fireplace is a beautiful piece of work by my Muslim sister.
Our chapter is mostly, we feel this is like an educational chapter. We've done some work in schools. Actually, the teens have done some work in schools. They've done some lessons in Muslim and Jewish schools. The lesson plan is we're more similar than you think, and we had some amazing outcomes with the children.
I'll never forget that Muslim boy who said, "All I've ever heard is how different we are from the Jews.
That's right.
And now I see how much we have in common."
That's right.
And
You
he
know,
was moved.
right, prejudice are set in, from parents, community. We're also in the process of writing a children's book. It's very, I know. It's all Annette. She's very,
It is
very
absolutely
motivating,
not.
and she gets me down.
It is absolutely not. It turns out you have an amazing
Instrumental.
story to tell. When we started in 2015, we had no idea about the rise in hate crimes and the rise in bigotry in this country, openly expressed bigotry that would be coming after the election. And our chapter and chapters around the country have gathered together. We've protested together, we've attended marches.
I haven't been in a conversation that addressed Israel, Palestine. I think we're working towards that goal. We've had a seminar on how to engage in difficult conversation.
The guideline in terms of dealing with Israel and Palestine is to wait until you are ready to listen with your heart, to really listen with an open mind to the experience of your sisters. And we're not in it to dictate it or to solve it. We're in it to understand one another and preserve our friendships.
Grace is a church that has been here in Westchester for 130 years. We are a congregation that is social justice grounded. We advocate for social justice. We do more than just have religion. We have a multi-tasked ministry. We've built over $140 million worth of housing here in Mount Vernon. We have a program for children for supplement education. We have over 80 college students in colleges across the country that are members of our church that we sponsor and help pay their way. We have a homeless program. We have a program for feeding people, 300 families a month. Our church has what we call ministries, 75 different ministries. And I've been an advocate for diversity and inclusion as a part of our ministry, celebrating difference and celebrating diversity, celebrating our common humanness. And Grace has taken on that flavor. It's a very relevant congregation. We have 3 services every Sunday. All of them are full. And we're in the process now of building a new cathedral to advance the regional impact of the church. What drew me here was the people. The facility was falling down. The congregation was in a depressed state, but they were great people and they wanted to be a great and relevant congregation, and that attracted me. And today we have over 4,000 members, and we have started 2 other congregations, one in Yonkers, Grace of Yonkers, and we started one in Port St. Lucie, Florida. I think the thing I'm most proud of is the impact that we've had on people's lives, individuals' lives, from children who were dedicated and prayed for as infants and who graduate to go to college, and to people who were lost and found their way, to people who were unemployed and got jobs, to people who had discovered a sense of value because of the ministry. Interfaith work is essential to the job I do, and it's essential to the prism by which I see my own effectiveness and by I see my own mission. I cannot see my mission as a pastor stopping at the border of any ethnic difference or any faith difference. And I see that as being consistent with the gospel, where people celebrate difference and that we create a world where people can come from different backgrounds and different faiths and different experiences and find a unity in our humanity. Every Easter season, from Ash Wednesday to Pentecost, which is about 14 weeks, we have a different pastor preach at Grace on Wednesdays, where the congregations come together. So we have all the denominations of the community, Catholics and the Methodists, and that's a wonderful way that we keep churches talking to each other. We use a different preacher from the denominations every week, and the congregation on those Wednesdays are interracial. For many years I served as on the Central Committee of the World Council of Churches, where 150 different countries from around the world gather to advocate for inclusion and diversity, and that was a wonderful thing. I'm chairman of the board of National Action Network. We've had Jewish rabbis join us on several occasions to advocate for fairness and justice and to advocate for inclusion.
I arrived in Larchmont in 1999. Rabbi Jeff and I met and had breakfast together, and there was an interfaith Thanksgiving service. And then came 9/11, and we were on the phone immediately, and the next day, on the 12th of September, it was a Wednesday, we decided, oh my gosh, yes, let us bring together the community and come together, and the temple is where we had a service that was kind of amazing and full overflow crowd. And following that, there was some overtures and interest in interviewing us, and we said, gosh, let's talk at the diner where we have breakfast. And that was the beginning of a 17-year run.
The foundation of any relationship is really about, commonality and also about common care or reciprocal care. And, I cared about this man from the moment I met him, in part because he's such a mensch. And so I cared, that's very important.
That's a Presbyterian term.
And so it is a Presbyterian term, and you understand it because you are it. And so we talked about shop, we talked about life, we talked about life-work balance, we cared about each other. That was the foundation of our relationship that started in maybe 1999, 2000. And one of the guys who was on the local LMC TV board, Michael Charles, said, you guys should put this on TV. He sort of overheard us at a booth, and we said, all right. We had thought nothing of it, and so that's how Faith and Eggs was born. Faith and Eggs, our diner dialogue, and you could say, well, it's one little cable network TV show, it's very nice, and what it does is it puts out there the reality that a rabbi and Presbyterian minister are talking about life, about the questions that they have, about their struggles in life, and about how we should perhaps handle the biggest challenges that this 21st century reality presents us.
We have been at the diner for some 17 years. Faith and Eggs at the Diner, lmctv.org. You can click it on and binge the 17 years of our programs that touch on, yes, Torah, yes, gospel, yes, the text of our traditions, as well as religious holidays, as well as the questions as they apply to, the life and world about us.
Our script is, hey, what's up with you? What do you think? So we talk about real life. And what are we trying to do? We're trying to model for people, for folks out there. This is really about Faith and Eggs for all. Get together with somebody. How often do you ask your neighbor about what they think about what's happening in this crazy political world in which we live? Do it over a meal. It's so much more fun and tasty. But it's really something we hope people do, and people understand it's really not about this reverend and this rabbi, but about all of us.
We get, after our on-air time at the diner, a number of responses from the community who said, I can't believe you said that, but it's got me thinking, and it makes me want to come to church or to temple.
I remember once we're at the diner and we're having a dialogue, and we must have called out, it was then a candidate who wasn't yet president, and somebody was walking
through. Kind of narrows it down right there.
Somebody was walking through the diner, and they shouted out, "Stick to religion!" Think about that. Now, you could say, oh, the pulpit is no place for politics, and the truth is that we don't want to compromise our 501c3s. However, if on your pulpit you're not ready to stand up and stand up for justice and the rights of the poor and the stranger, the widow, the orphan, if you're not, those are primary values. Politics invariably enter the fray, but not from a political motivation.
When the Mel Gibson film came out, The Passion of Christ, which was anti-Semitic in various ways, we put together a study guide for that. We had a series here at the temple, and that was kind of intense.
On a monthly basis, we share together in undertaking and doing a midnight run in the city, so our people cook together and then drive together.
We have been the ones called upon to offer blessing and invocation at community events like the 9/11 memorial and recognition. That's been rather significant and rather regular.
I feel blessed because, I came from Pakistan, so if I was still there, I would be in a homogenous society, and I would never be able to experience the diversity and the culture appreciation, the exposure to different religions, especially in Judaism. So I feel blessed that I'm able to engage with people of different backgrounds.
This country is a nation of people who came from elsewhere other than the Native Americans, and even that diversity we need to begin to celebrate. In honor of Thanksgiving, it most definitely is a beautiful way to celebrate, to be celebrating our diversity.
We live in a world where there's differences and distinctions that even to the extreme are tribal and separate and separating. Diversity bespeaks and reflects a call to community.
If you build walls, then you're only going to know yourself. You're going to be framed in or penned in by your own perspective and your own tribe and your own. But if you can, as Rabbi Jonathan Sachs teaches us, if you can appreciate the dignity of difference, then diversity is the greatest blessing. Think about how God created human beings, all in the image of the Holy One, and yet on the outside, we're all different. So God obviously loves diversity and wants us to appreciate other people and the fact that we don't have the whole answer. We don't know it all. We just have a tiny bit. Through our traditions, our customs, our teachings, we have something, but I need him in order to make the world whole. And I need that Hindu, that atheist, that Muslim, that Buddhist, we need everybody. So diversity is the only path to make this planet whole. That's it.
The whole of creation, as one looks at it, is diverse. You talk about this fall day, you talk about trees and the different colors on the leaves, and you talk about if you see no leaf is the same, no tree is the same. The marks of creation are diversity. And our capacity to live together is to be found in our celebrating our common humanness, yet affirming the fact that we are diverse and that we are different, and that our difference is not a cause for hate or evil. Our difference is a cause to be celebrated. When people move into cubicles, it becomes dangerous. When people lock the door, close the doors, pull down the shades, and don't see anything other than themselves, that becomes dangerous. In the global community, that becomes dangerous. It becomes dangerous when we shut up and only see our experience and don't acknowledge our neighbor's experience. It is in the openness to others that we all have security.
The difference that we see in one another has been the source of separation and divide, as opposed to, and even worse than that, even the demonization, as opposed to the recognition of our common humanity and our coming together.
One thing the founder always said is, it's easy to hate someone you don't know. It's harder to hate them if you know them, but it's almost impossible to hate someone you care about. So we're changing the world one sister at a time.
We did it! We did it! We did it!
And I see your truth.